This is just a quick video to help you with solving for y. You have to solve for y a lot when you're graphing. So I'm going to start easy and just work up to a more difficult problem. We're going to solve for y, especially on the first three. I want to solve for y, and then I want to plug in numbers for x and get values for y, which is sometimes what you have to do to graph. Okay, so if we look at the first one, I think I've got a pen that works, and I don't. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so if I look at the first one, and I'm drawing good, what I want to do is I want to get rid of this negative 2x. I want y by itself. Anytime you're solving for a variable, you want it by itself. So basically, I just need to take this and move it to the other side, and that's it. So to do that, mathematically, you make it go away here, so I want to make it equal 0. So the opposite of negative 2x would be positive 2x. So if I add those two together, they're going to be 0. But I've got an equal sign here, and I've got to do the same thing over here. Okay? So now I'll just bring down the y. That's a bad y, but it's a y. Okay? And now I've got to put these over here, but these are not like terms. I can't do 8 minus 2x is 6x because this does not have an x. They're not like terms, so I can't subtract them. And you simply just write them beside each other, just like that. Negative 2x plus 8 is what the answer is. Now, if I'm going to substitute these, if I'm graphing, what I like to do is this. I just put a parentheses where the x is. I used to write better. I've got negative 2 plus 8. I've got 3 values, so I'm just going to do it 3 times. Okay, and I'm going to substitute. Here's a negative 1 here, a 0 here, and a 1 here. And then I just get the values, okay? So negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Positive 2 plus 8 is 10. So that's going to give me 10. Okay? Negative 2 times 0 is 0 plus 8 is 8. And negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus 8 is 6. And there are my 3 values. And I can actually use these. That's an x value and a y value. You can actually use those numbers to graph, which I'm not going to do. Okay? So that's how you do the first one. Let's look at the second one. Let's get rid of all this mess. Okay, here I've got to move the 4x and I've got to get rid of that negative y. So I'm going to do that real quick by, again, the opposite, the inverse, because I want these two to equal 0 when I add. And I do it over here. You've got to bring down the negative y here. These are not like terms, so you just set them side by side, just like this. That's a positive 7, so it's plus. That's a negative 4x. Okay, now to get rid of this, this is really negative 1y. So basically, I just multiply both sides by negative 1, or divide both sides by negative 1. It really doesn't matter. But when you do that, you divide that by negative 1, you get positive y. That becomes positive 4x, and that divided by negative 1 is negative 7. Okay, and there's my final answer. So I had 2 steps. I had to move the 4x by doing the opposite here, and I had to get rid of the negative. If I'm solving or getting values for x, I'm going to do this 3 times. Y equals 4 times that minus 7. Y equals 4. That looks like a 4, but it's a y minus 7. And again, I'm going to put negative 1, 0, and 1. Then do a little math. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4 minus 7. That's negative 11. Okay, 4 times 0 is 0 minus 7 is negative 7. And then 4 times 1 is 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Okay, we should have a pattern here. This goes down by 4, this goes down by 4. So we've got a pattern, and these numbers should be correct. Okay, next one, again, we're building up in difficulty. So that had 2 steps to it. The next one will have 2 steps. It's just a little bit more difficult. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm moving the x to the other side. That's always the first step. Not always, but most of the time. That's a positive, so you put negative 6x underneath it, negative 6x here. Bring this down. That's negative 3y. Bring the negative down with the 3y. You got an equal sign. And again, set these side by side. The x needs to go. It doesn't really have to, but it should. It needs to go first. Put the positive 6 beside it. And there we go. That's the first step. First step done. Last step, get rid of this negative 3 in front of the y. Divide. And when you divide, you have to divide both terms by negative 3. Not just this term, but both terms. So now when I do that, I get y is equal to, okay, that becomes a positive 2x. That's a bad 2, but it is. And that becomes a negative 2, so minus 2. And there's my equation, y equals 2x minus 2. And this is the last time we'll do that, but if I'm getting three values, I'm just going to, again, put a parentheses where the x is, write it 3 times, because I think that's a little, it's easier to do when you see it like this. You can certainly do it in your head. When you've done this a few times, you can certainly do it in your head pretty easily. But I'm just going to show you. Okay, so 2 times -1 is -2, minus 2 is -4. I'll put it over here. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 2 is -2. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 2 is 0. And there's our numbers, and there is a pattern. I'm going down by 2's each time. Okay, again, I've got 3 more equations, and I'm just going to solve them here, and then I think we'll be finished. First, again, I'm moving the 3x to the other side. It's a negative 3x. I want to put a positive 3x under it. So positive 3x over here. You'll notice these are pretty much mostly the same every time. Then I'm going to bring down this negative 2y, and I'm going to put these two together, 3x plus 4, just like that. Last step, divide by -2, divide everything by -2, okay? Then I get y is equal to. Now, this is just a fraction. 3 divided by -2 is just 3 over -2. But I'm not going to put the negative in the denominator. So it's just a -3/2. I know it's hard for some people to get, but that's just 3 over 2. Put the x beside it. Now, this is 4 over -2, which is -2. So minus 2. Okay, so I get y equals 3/2 x minus 2. Okay, going back. Here, I've got a lot of stuff over here. Okay, actually, let's come back to that. It's probably the hardest one. Let's do this one first, then we'll come back to that one. Okay, I want to move the x over. That's a positive x, so I'll put a negative x underneath it. So I get 3y equals -x plus 5. Okay, just put them side by side. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So this becomes y, and this is really a -1. So the fraction here is really -1/3. -1 over 3 becomes -1/3. Put the x beside it. It could be on top, but we like it beside it when we're doing these kinds of equations. And then we're going to add plus 5 divided by 3 is just 5/3. And we're going to leave it 5/3. We don't need a decimal, not right now. We're going to leave it 5 over 3. And there's our equation. We're finished. Okay? Now, let's look at this one. Let's clean this up a bit, and let's look at this last one. This is probably the hardest one of the bunch, maybe. So notice everything is on this side, okay? And if I want y by itself, I might just move this over here instead of moving these two things over there. It really doesn't matter what you want to do. If you like doing everything the same every time, then you'll want to move the x and the 12, okay? I'm just going to move the y over here, okay? So we do -9y, -9y. Now what's left over here is -12x plus 12, and that's going to equal -9y. That's a bad 9, but that's what it is, okay? The 0 goes away because it's simply a placeholder. You've got something over there now. So we're going to divide by -9, and we're going to divide all of this by -9. So we got to do a little math here. We're doing math the whole time, but y equals, okay, now this is a negative divided by negative, so it's positive. It's going to be 12/9, but I can reduce that by, I can divide by 3, and I should get 4/3. So I get 4 over 3, and the x is with this fraction, so just put the x beside it, just like that. Now here, this is a negative and a positive, so when I divide, I'm going to get a negative number. And again, it's going to be the same fraction, 12 over 9. You know, you divide by 3, you get 4/3. So it's going to be 4/3 equals y, and we have solved for y. And I think that will pretty much get you through any equation with an x and a y variable in it. That is solving for y.